Acer's first foray into the premium Ultrabook market, the Aspire S5, is so thin and light that it cannot even fit a standard set of ports in the back. At just 0.6 inches at its thickest point, there's no room for USB or for HDMI, but there is a way of getting at that, which is this neat little gimmick, the mechanized port. Besides that, this device weighs just 2.6 pounds and it packs a Core i7 processor and speedy dual SSDs. But does all of that justify a $1,399 price point in a world where the MacBook Air starts at $1,199? Let's find out. So let's have a quick look around the Aspire S5. As you can see, this is extremely thin, just 0.6 inches at its thickest point and about 0.44 at its thinnest. It weighs just 2.6 pounds, which makes it 0.4 pounds less than the MacBook Air and the Asus ZenBook Prime. It also packs quite a punch internally. It has a 1.9 gigahertz third generation Core i7 CPU, and it has something we've never seen before in an Ultrabook or pretty much any notebook this size, which is it has dual SSDs in RAID 0. So there are two 128 gigabyte SSDs inside that are linked together in a RAID 0 array, which means that the operating system sees them as one 256 gigabyte drive that will just blow your mind with performance because it's double the performance of a standard SSD. Aside from that, we've got a 13.3 inch screen that is 1366 by 768. We've got obviously 4 gigs of RAM, no discrete graphics, and of course we have our ports on the back, which are a couple of USB 3.0 ports, a Thunderbolt port, and an HDMI port, while along the side here we have a 2-in-1 card reader. Besides that, we don't have an Ethernet port, which is something that we really would have liked to get. So what do we like about the Acer Aspire S5? Well, first of all, we are in love with the dual SSDs in RAID 0. These two Light-On branded SSDs provided the fastest transfer rate we've ever seen on any notebook, completing our file transfer test wherein we copy 4.97 gigabytes of files in just about 17 seconds. That's a rate of 299 megabytes per second. And of course, that's both reading and writing at the same time. When we actually ran a pure sequential read test on these, we were getting well over 700 megabytes per second. So really incredible speed, more than double what you get, or just about double what you get with the MacBook Air and its SSD. The 1.9 gigahertz Core i7 CPU is really quite fast. And of course, this touchpad actually provides really good navigation around the desktop. It's much more accurate than we normally get from a typical ClickPad. In fact, let's check out some of the gestures you can do on it. It supports a plethora of multi-touch gestures, including, of course, pinch to zoom very smoothly, rotate to change your orientation, and our favorite, 2-finger swipe to actually scroll between photos in a gallery. And if you do a 4-finger up, you minimize your windows, and a 4-finger down brings them back. And those are gestures that on a lot of notebooks we have a great deal of difficulty with. We have to try them 3 or 4 times to make it work. That was really, really easy. So this touchpad is really excellent. The other thing that we love on this notebook is the webcam. The 1.3 megapixel webcam performs really well in low light, provided you turn on the correct settings. So let's check that out. So one of the biggest problems we have with a lot of webcams is if you're not in perfect lighting, your face gets all washed out and shadowy, and that becomes a real difficulty because when are we in perfect lighting? Almost never. Well, fortunately, with this webcam on the Aspire S5, it's really quite easy to go to the settings and enable auto lighting. So if we go into the settings mode and we click auto lighting, the picture brightens right up, and you'll see that it's a lot clearer, and with noise reduction on, you also don't get all those extra pixels that make it look so bad. So provided that you turn those features on, this is a really excellent webcam. So what don't we like about the Acer Aspire S5? Well, first of all, we really dislike the screen. At 1366 by 768, the screen just isn't very sharp. And while that resolution might be okay on a $500 or $600 computer, we would expect more from a $1,399 system like this, particularly when you have much higher resolutions on the Asus ZenBook Prime, which is now 1920 by 1080, and the MacBook Air, which is 1440 by 900. But even worse, the colors are just dull, really lifeless, and at 175 lux, this is also one of the dimmer systems around. So while the viewing angles can be solid depending on what you're looking at, the colors are just really washed out, particularly in dark scenes. You get halo effects. It just really doesn't look very good at all. So, you know, if you're planning to watch movies, if you want to look at pictures, you really should expect more from a system this price. But this is a premium system with a dollar bin screen on it, is what it is. It's a premium system with a really cheap, crappy screen. One of the things that we really dislike about the Acer Aspire S5 is its biggest gimmick, its fold-out mechanical ports. Like a 1982 Pontiac Trans Am with pop-up headlights, this is a cool idea that's actually quite useless and annoying. For one, it doesn't stay open. When you turn the notebook off or when you put it to sleep, you'll see that the port actually closes itself unless you have something plugged into it. Second of all, after all that effort, all you get with your ports are two USBs, an HDMI, and a Thunderbolt. You don't get Ethernet, which is something that you really need. And every time you want to get to these, you have to hit this button, which we hope will last you a good long time, but we have no way of knowing. So that's really quite a gimmick and kind of annoying. The other thing that we really, really dislike on this notebook is its mushy keyboard. This keyboard has decent size keys in most cases, although if you look over here at the arrows and at the Del and Escape keys, they're tiny. But we found it really quite mushy, really unpleasant to type on, kind of cramped, not the kind of premium experience you would expect for this price. Finally, the thing that we really, really dislike and is kind of a deal killer for us on this, or a deal killer for a lot of people, is that it only lasted 5 hours and 24 minutes on the laptop battery test. That's well below the ultra portable category average, which is around 6.5 hours, and miles behind the 8 hours and 10 minutes turned in by the MacBook Air, and about an hour behind the 6.5 hours that we got with the Asus ZenBook Prime. So really short battery life. You can't change the battery. And while you're using it, though you're going to have very powerful load times and quick SSDs and a quick processor, you're not going to be able to use it very long, and you're not going to be comfortable with the mushy keyboard and the dull screen. So overall, we think that this notebook is something that you should consider if you want something really light and thin and you're really enthused by the SSDs. But frankly, at this price point, the original $1399 price point, you could do a lot better.